Hey happy crafters! In this video I want to introduce you to 5 different weaves that can be made with this size of ring, 18 gauge. Oh goodness gracious, I had everything all set up all nice. Y'all, send help. Welcome to the reality of chainmailing. If you lose your mind, welcome to the club. So these are 18 gauge standard wire gauge or 16 gauge American wire gauge. So if you're here and you're a wire wrapper, this will be, it's 16 gauge from like Parawire or Rio Grande or something. But 18 standard wire gauge. So if you're shopping with Chainmaille Joe or the Ring Lord. Let's do some quick editing to get, my ducks back into a row. And here is a handy dandy chart that we got from Chainmaille Joe whenever we had ordered rings. But you can also find, and it'll be linked down below, where you can find a printable version of a similar chart from theringlord.com. But here are the gauges and millimeters on this side. And here are the, inch segments, 5/16, 3/8, and millimeters for the inner diameter. And then it also has aspect ratio information. So hopefully that's helpful to you guys. So these are 5 chainmail weaves that can be done with this ring size, but these are not the only weaves that can be done. Like, these are just 5 out of the many that can be, accomplished, or that can be woven with this. This is just the way that I do it. There's so many different teachers out there on the internet now. If what I'm teaching here isn't clicking with you, I highly encourage you to check out Aussie Mail. And I think We've Got Mail and the Ring Lord have some of their own tutorials and stuff now. There's so many. So if I'm not the right teacher for you, please don't let that stop you from searching and learning and exploring that, because chainmail is such a fun craft, you guys. Now, one of my favorite things about chainmail is that it does not take a whole lot of tools. So I prefer, in my hands, my tapered flat nose pliers that I had gotten for like $6 from Rio Grande, but that I need to make a different handle for because it's given me a little too much pinch there. And then my bent nose pliers, everything's linked down in the video description, you guys, that I modded out the handles with thermoplastic like Warbla or Terraflex so that my pinky could get involved. And these are my favorite, but whenever we teach classes, we'll often bring a variety of chain nose, not pictured, flat nose and bent nose pliers. The main thing that I've noticed in different price ranges of pliers is the tips are more or less pretty similar, but what you're paying for is hinge quality, whether or not the steel is going to rust. Well, hey, pretty baby. And so sometimes sometimes you can get a great pair of pliers for cheap. $6. I felt like that was really reasonable. These ones need oiled, so I'm going to oil those before we weave too much today. But so tool maintenance goes a long way, but usually, because what's the difference between $5 pliers and $40 pliers? Sometimes it's not a huge difference, but the things that I do look out for is I want my hinges to be this style of like box hinge, where there's a piece on each side and then the one down in the middle. I don't know if that's called a box hinge, as opposed to, I call these just like, well, this one's a box hinge too, so they can even do it on more delicate pliers. So it's really nice for keeping your tool tips in alignment, whereas ones like this one have like a scissor hinge, if that makes sense. So it's like, oftentimes I'll have difficulty, especially on round nose pliers or chain nose, whenever I'm working with stainless steel. I've broken pliers that are like this before. I've never broken these ones before. So far. So just a few thoughts on what tools to use, and that's it. You need one for each hand and you're good to go. And I've even seen some finger rings that have like a groove in them so that you can do it just one plier, but I do prefer pliers just for if you're going to be weaving very much. It's what's more comfortable for me, but you'll find your way, you guys. If you're watching this and you receive our Happy Crafter Club kits, our December 2025 kit contains these rings, the 18 gauge 3/16, enough to make these bracelets that we have sampled over here. Like you can make at least 2 of this box chain, which is the densest weave we're going to be doing today, but we'll get into ring density here in a second. But we have a separate video that has like an unboxing of that. But just to let you guys know, this is the December 2025 kit, but you do not need a kit to craft along with us. Links to all the different tools and materials are down below. Your kit will also include a variety of our homemade fused glass cabochons, and as well as some clasps to finish your jewelry with. But we do have a separate video unboxing that kit. That way, it's linked down below, or there might be a card up here in the corner. The weaves we're going to be demonstrating today, we're going to be beginning with the spiral chain, then I'm going to demonstrate the half Persian 3-in-1, then we're going to do a bit of box chain. I'm going to show you how to do a single wide and then double wide row of European 4-in-1, and then we're going to finish up with the box chain. I've rated these in complexity based on my experience, but I'm really interested, what order would you have put these in if you're an experienced chainmailer, going from easiest to most difficult? Because I don't know, I'm interested. So these are the different weaves. Let's go ahead and get started with spiral chain. In regards to ring density, I'm trying to do what I call a unit. I'm aiming for 10 units of the same weave, just to kind of demonstrate and keep track of ring density. That'll hopefully make more sense as we move along. So here we're going to be doing just a little segment of the spiral chain, but the nice thing is about a lot of these weaves is a necklace is just a long bracelet. So whatever we do for 2 inches worth is the same of that weave, whether we're doing it as like a tiny keychain or earring, or whether we're doing it as like a bag strap or something. So I wouldn't necessarily recommend a bag strap for this ring size. I really like this design as a bracelet, and you can see here it is in its spiraled form. One of my favorite things about this bracelet or this chainmail weave is it makes, if you twist it the other way, that's really kind of interesting on its own. But whenever it's just hanging loose, it's not really holding its shape, but you can hold one end steady and just twist until it holds itself a little stiff with the tension between the rings, and it makes that wonderful spiral pattern, which I just love. And so it makes a great friendship bracelet because it does help to have a friend to help you put it on. And here this one secures with a lobster claw clasp. So to weave this pattern, we're going to start with, we have our open rings and our closed rings, and I think I showed you how to open one. I'll demonstrate again. But I like to hold not just with the tippy tips of my pliers. I like to have a nice solid grasp of it, and then we're going to turn so you can see I open it up a little under 45-degree angle for the opening, and that's how that would come out. I set them down in a way that it will be easy for my pliers to pick them back up, and I also bend it so that I'm right-handed. I bend it so that the right side of the ring is the one that's coming up, so that it's very easy for me to just pick it up with my pliers. So for the first unit here, I've got 10 open with 1 closed ring on the first one. And the way that we close a ring is I get a good grip on what we're working on, and then applying a little bit of inward pressure between the pliers, like I'm pushing in together. Not super hard, but just enough to close that ring, because whenever they are cut, let me show if we did that without pushing together. So we just get them in really good alignment. That's really lined up, but whenever you look at it through the side, you can see that light coming through the gap. That's where the saw blade came through to cut the ring. So if we press and wiggle, we're going to get a really good alignment. And I always test with my finger to see, you know, that's a nice clean closure. And these are just butted. If you were using different metals, you could solder or maybe spot weld, but we're just working with the aluminum today. So good news is that's it. That's all there is to chainmail, is opening and closing rings. The rest of it is just angle of insertion and getting fancy with it. So I'm going to be holding on to the right ring, and then I'm twisting the left ring so that if it's sitting perpendicular, I'm just twisting it to where the part of the ring facing me goes up. So do you see how those stack? That this one's below that one. I'm going to pick up one of our open rings, and I'm going to hook it through the center, that little Venn diagram. And then I'm going to close it. And I'm still holding on to this ring, because if I set it down right now, I'll lose my place. But this one dangling lowest, you can see how they're kind of stacked. 1, 2, 3. If you twist it the other way, it doesn't really look like anything. So here you can see though it's like a little stair step. 1, 2, 3. And now we're going to pick up another ring, and we're going to go back, not this first hole, but this second hole. And we're going to hook through those two. This weave, its most difficult part is the first like 5 or 6 rings, but then it gets easier, I promise. So still holding on to this 4th ring that we just added, I'm going to do that little twist, and you can see, if you're not certain, just try it the other way. If it looks not like this, then twist it the other way. I don't know how else to teach it, you guys. So now, again, not through this first ring, but through this second ring. And then we're going to close it. And then we're going to twist. And you can see, and I'm just pinching gently if I can. I'm trying to get out of the habit of death gripping my pliers. Like, because, oh man, I'm white knuckling it over here, and I don't really need to be. And that starts to take a toll on the hands after a while. So again, we have just another open ring, not the first one, but the second one. And sometimes I'll use my thumb to help kind of push it through. And then we'll close. And I do like to stay holding on to the ring that I've just added. It helps me keep from losing my place. And then we'll twist. If it's not working one way, try twisting the other way. There we go. And then, and I keep holding it in my fingers because, uh-oh, we dropped it. You just find one end, and then when I twist it that way, that's not correct. So we'll just test it the other way. And there we go. That looks pretty good. But just note, it's really tricky to get it to hold its shape at this stage. And that's okay. That doesn't mean that you didn't weave it right. That's just how this weave is. Okay. And I do have a preferred way of holding it, just because it's whatever facilitates easier getting my ring through. So practice it from all different angles. Let me see if I can approach it from a different angle. So there's my preferred way of adding, but you can actually, if you drop it and flip it around, the same concept applies. Not this first ring, this second ring. And it almost doesn't matter what angle you insert it, because so long as you're hooking through the correct 2 rings, you can let that ring go floppy, and it'll still, when you twist it, it'll still end up in that pattern. So just hooking through, coming back 1, 2, close. I like to twist just to test, the test twist. And then pick it up, hook it through. Not that first one, that one. Now, I really hope y'all are practicing along with me. You do feel free to hit pause as much as necessary. If you have any questions, leave them down in the comment area. That way, if I don't know how to answer your question, we've got a lot of really talented folks who watch our videos. We're really blessed to have, not to brag, but what I think is one of the best communities on YouTube. Y'all really are very kind and talented and amazing. So, but one of those kind folks might be down there in the comment section and be able to help you out as well. And you'll get multiple perspectives of, maybe how to troubleshoot a project. It's a cool community. You're invited. So let's see. That's looking pretty good. Let's see what it looks like if we do it not through the right spot. So this is probably the most common thing that I see whenever we're teaching is you'll have hooked just one, because it'll look kinda on that test twist. It looks kinda, but it's not quite. And if yours is doing that, the way to do it is you just open up your ring again, get everything twisted, and then hook through the second one. And if I were adding a clasp, this is where I would just hook on the clasp end. Though oftentimes I'll hook the clasp on pretty early in the bracelet. That way it can add a nice little bit of weight. And then I'll just weave until I get to the end. And here you can see the way that I finished this bracelet. This is a wonderful opportunity to use different ring sizes to add a little bit of visual interest and distinction between the extender chain and the main weave of the pattern, but that's all personal style and preference and stuff. So this is totally functional, and this is how we sell our jewelry out of our booth unless I'm getting fancy with it. So this is like our baseline extender chain. It's just 4 of the exact same size of jump ring hooked one inside the other to continue on. And so there you can see the difference between the spiral chain, and if you do it, you can still spiral it, but it's not nearly so dense. And it's actually a pretty cool little design element. I'm visualizing a bracelet that has one twist's worth of this ring size, and then it goes into a twist of graduated rings. So it would kind of like how this here is graduated. The rings get bigger as they come to the center. I don't know. Well, it's having ideas. So we'll have to try that one out. But yeah, so that is spiral chain. Let's move on next to the half Persian 3-in-1. Wish us luck. The next weave that we're going to be tackling is one of my favorites, but also my nemesis, half Persian 3-in-1. And there are full-length tutorials for each of these weaves linked down in the video description, where we go more in depth about them. And we also have more chainmail in-depth tutorials like this coming in the future. So be sure to subscribe if you're into that and if you're interested in learning more with us. And if you like our jewelry and you're interested in shopping, you can find our online storefront at backtoearthcreations.com. And while you're visiting, you can sign up for our free newsletter so that you can stay in touch and hopefully not miss out on any of the tutorials, live streams, shop updates, coupons, etc., that we do. Like all sorts of stuff, vending events. We're getting back out onto the road in 2026, or at least that's one of our goals. So here you can see this is a half Persian 3-in-1. It's half of the full Persian 6-in-1 weave, but we'll get to that in a different video. One of my favorite things about this weave is that it sits nice and flat against the skin, so it's very comfortable to wear, even though it has a little bit of that three-dimensional, as though it were fully round. It's like half round wire instead of full round wire, if you're here watching as part of our wire wrapping community. And here you can see that same trough, that little V that it makes whenever you bring it around something. It kind of cups it. Really, I don't like to do it without also doing UV resin here in the back. That was our friend Katista had told us about using UV resin, and it's my new favorite way. I'll build it up just a little bit at a time. That way we don't get leakage around to the front, and I have to be patient about that. But I used to use a 2-part epoxy by DevCon. It was the 5-minute one, and that worked okay, but I would still get some leakage to the front. But the UV resin I like it because there's no mixing, there's no anything. Even whenever my UV lamp is broken, I can just go outside on a sunny day and cure it in the sunlight. So, and I don't have a mixing sticks and papers and cups and different things. But this is how those look around the edge of a bauble. This is a whole separate tutorial, you guys. This almost broke me. And whenever I was learning how to weave chainmail, joining half Persian 3-in-1 was the hardest thing ever, and it remains in like the top 10 hardest things I've ever learned crafting wise since then. But don't let that scare you. You'll get this. It's the weave itself isn't too bad. It's the joining the ends, but you know. So the way that we're going to weave this is I'm going to pick up our first ring that has 2 closed on it, and I'm going to give it a nice close. And then I press from behind, splitting these 2 rings like this. If we think of it in terms of vertical and horizontal rings, the ones on the end are the vertical, the one in the middle is the horizontal. I'm going to slide the right ring behind the left ring, and then whoop, slide the right ring behind the left ring and let that horizontal ring tip down. As opposed to up. So see how it's tilted down? And then I'm able to just kind of hold that. And now I want to hook through very similar to how we did on the spiral chain. How we have right here, that little Venn diagram between those 2 rings. We're just hooking through those front 2 rings, not this back one. And we're going to close it. And I'm going to just pinch. We've got this ring dangling down here. It might be hard to get it behind the other ring, so I like to go up and tuck behind. So do you see how, man, that's like really tight. We can push it through, but I find it easier to just tuck up and behind. And that's how those 3 are setting. And then we just repeat this weave. Now, in the other tutorials where we go more in depth, oftentimes we are using 2 different colors of chainmail rings, so that might be helpful to you as well. I also highly recommend all of these, except for the spiral chain, work really well being woven with stretchy rubber rings as well. Any ring that's closed in our unit setup can be replaced with a rubber ring, except for the spiral chain. At least I've not found a way, so that doesn't mean that there isn't one though. So we've got that closed. We're going to lift up and go behind. We're going to pick up a ring. And again, we want to make sure that we're just hooking through those 2, not the back ones. Now we are not going to be going over joining the half Persian 3-in-1 today because this video is already longer than I meant for it to be. But if you are interested in that, again, they are linked down. Tutorials for how to do these things that I'm mentioning will be linked down in the video description below. So again, I just hook through 1, and it may look like this. We take this back one, and it just slides over. That way it's laying in that kind of stacked position. So for as long as I've been weaving chainmail, I haven't really been super involved in any chainmail communities since like mailartisans.org, and even then I was a spectator. I wasn't really, involved. But do y'all have any like Facebook groups or Reddits or TikTokers that you follow or anything like that? Like I'm really interested in kind of just maybe participating with some chainmailers online and just like, I don't know, dipping my toe back into posting in communities and stuff. So if y'all have any communities that you'd recommend, do let me know. So we're hooking through like that. And there like that. Whew. Again, taking a break every so often just to make sure that I'm not squeezing my pliers to death. And then we'll hook through 1, 2. That's it from the back side. And then I'll show you how I like to attach a clasp to this design as well. And I'm weaving the same amount on each one, each bracelet segment, because I want to compare ring density. And so at the end of this video, I'll have the little segments lined up against each other, and you know, we'll be able to see how far so many rings gets us. I figure even if, you know, I'm the only person that this video is helpful to, at least I'm helping somebody. Sometimes we got to help ourselves, but I do hope that this is helpful or useful to other creative folks and chainmailers and artisans and stuff. So there is our half Persian 3-in-1, and the way I like to finish off the ends is you can see here we have, I'm going to show you how to do that. And down here on the clasp end, it's going to be the same way that we finish, but we just hook the little clasp through. So to do that, I'm going to take this, we're going to tuck that behind. I'm taking an empty ring. This is how I call finishing my ends in this weave. And I just hook through the 1 and the 2, but there's no closed ring dangling off of it. And to me, this is a closed end because it looks just like the other end. I don't have an end that's like floppy. Now they're going to look a little different because of, you know, which angle we're viewing them at. But I think these make fantastic little bracelet segments for between beads, very similarly to how we did here on this necklace. Though this is a different weave. This has a Byzantine weave in between wire wrapped bead links. But you could totally make just a small segment of half Persian 3-in-1, and it gives you a pretty different looking necklace, I think, or bracelet or earrings, or, you know, whatever it is that you're making. Speaking of Byzantine, that is what we are going to be working on next. So just to show you an example, here are 2 examples of Byzantine. This one's done with some of the rings are a slightly thicker ring size, but I just wanted to show you how it has really great opportunities for adding in splashes of color. So we'll have more examples like in an upcoming Byzantine chainmail tutorial. I'm going to be showing multiple examples of the Byzantine weave in multiple ring gauges as well as multiple ring sizes. And I'm really excited about that. So stay tuned. Let me get my rings moved over. This one is a little different than some of the other weaves because that we've gone over so far today, at least in how I like to speed weave them. So my first ring has 1 open with 4 closed on it. And that's kind of precarious, but it's worth it, trust me. At least I think so. Let me know in the comments if you think it's worth it. And then 1 open with none on them, 1 open with 2 closed, 1 open with none on it, and then 2 open with none on it. And that's 1 unit for whenever I'll say to, you know, if my husband and business partner, Randy, if he's helping me on a project, I'll be like, I need 10 units, and he'll know to make 10 of this, and that way, yeah, that's just how we communicate, but I hope that's helpful to you. And I'm not saying that as being like everybody should do it that way. I'm just afraid that if I try to say anything other than what I'm used to, I'll get jumbled up. And so I just wanted to give you my definition of that term, at least in the context that it's used in our craft room, so that you know what I'm rambling on about. Okay, we're just going to do 2 segments of this one. But we're going to pick up that open ring with the 4 closed on it, and we're going to give it a close. And then we're going to take that open Nike ring, it doesn't have any closed rings on it, and we're going to hook through all 4 of the closed that we just went through. So we're going to close that one, and now I'm going to bring those 2 together and separate it out towards 2 on each end. And then I'm going to take an open with 2 closed on it, and I'm going to hook through 1, 2 there on the end, just like that. And we'll close it. And then I'm going to put an open ring through those two, and then those two, making this a 5-segment long 2-2 chain or 4-4 chain. I don't know. It's something that can be said for chainmail communities, at least in my experiences. Man, if they can argue about it, they will. And so if I'm using the wrong terms and stuff, please have mercy on me. It's been a minute. So that's how that's looking. And we would set that up twice. And so when I'm very lucky and I ask Randy for 10 units of Byzantine, he will often send them over to me already woven up to this stage, which is just the nicest thing. Like, oh my gosh. He spoils me though. It's always nice to have a ring buddy to spoil. I try to spoil him if I can. But ever since I hurt my hand, he's taken over the majority of our chainmail, and I've greatly appreciated that. But this way I still get the fun, the fun part without having to do all the work. So he babies me, but I'm okay. So whenever I'm making a bracelet or a necklace, if the clasp is going to be attached directly to the chainmail, like if there's not going to be a bead link or some mechanized chain in between, this is how I like to start it. We'll want to have an open ring for attaching the clasp as well, like in addition to these units. So we're going to take our ring segment here like this, our 2-2 chain. And then I'm going to bring, do you see how they're hanging down? I'm going to fold them up. And we want to see if we can get them to where they're sitting like that. And then I apply a little bit of pressure between my finger and thumb to kind of pinch it in place so that I can open these 2 rings. And then I want to hook just the 2 that are folded over. Not these 2. I don't want to be hooking through all 4 in the center. That's not what we're looking for on this one. We just want to hook the 2 that are folded over onto the sides. This is another weave that we have a tutorial on showing how to do it in two metal tones, as well as with stretchy. And then we're going to put that second ring right through the one that didn't have, the right where we just passed through, we're going to add a second ring. And now I'm going to take this lone open ring and hook it through the 2 we just added, as well as the clasp. And then we'll close it. And that's how that's looking. Oftentimes I like to replace this ring right here with an 18 gauge 1/8 inch bright aluminum ring or matching metal of whatever the rest of the bracelet is of, but that's just a style choice on my part. Using the same size ring I think works perfectly fine. And so now the way that I end up weaving this is I'll grab the frontmost ring, drop that one to the back, press it, let it just fall, press it, open, and then I'm going to hook through 1, 2 to maintain that pattern. And then picking up in my other hand, I'm going to let those rings split apart. We drop, we drop. See how they sit like so? Just kind of on either side, but up a little bit from the 2 rings that are attached to these 2. Then we'll rotate, open, and hook through foomp, foomp, just the middle one. And something you'll want to watch out for is you don't want it coming between the flopped over rings and the center ones. You want it splitting those center down the middle. And then we'll close that. And then we'll pick up a ring. And then we'll hook through 1, 2. Just repeating the path we just took. 1, 2. And then we would continue that on and just repeat the pattern. So I would take these 2 rings, open them kind of down, then open, and I'd hook and just keep repeating that bit over and over again. Now, instead of adding a new segment on, like how we did right here, if I had just done the 2 rings, that's a little Byzantine segment that I like to use. Here's an example of it in a smaller ring size. This is a 20 gauge 1/8 inch stainless steel. But you can see that's the same little weave pattern, but attached to some wire wrapped links. And again, that's just one of many ways of utilizing this, but I just love it, especially for the necklines. Like here we have, again, between some wire wrapped links. This is the same ring size that we're using today. And then here's the ring size down, at least in, a smaller size down. And just doing things like adding in different wire wrapped links and stuff can really make, these 2 necklaces have the exact same segment, it's backwards, have the exact same segment of Byzantine in them. This is the exact same rings and weave as here and farther down along the back of the neckline, as well as here and here closer up to where we were doing the graduated sizes. So it's versatile, y'all, and you can bring it in, like being able to make a little segment of weave almost makes me feel like it's another charm that I have like in my bead tray that I can choose from as a design element. The next weave that we'll be covering is the European foreign one. Now this one can be done in a single wide row or in a double wide row. We'll just be going over the single row today, but there is a link in the video description to where you can find a tutorial on how to weave the double wide. And if you can do this, you can weave a whole shirt. You can weave the chainmail bikini tops that we have a tutorial on. Like, you can basically weave your own metal fabric, but whole other tutorial on this and the different variations coming soon. So yay, I'm excited about that. I'm so excited to be able to weave chainmail again. So with the European weave, though, it's really evident in these wider pieces that there is a grain. There are some rings that are laying this away, and there's some rings that are laying this away. So these 2 rows, this row and this row, are leaning one direction, and then the outer, centermost, and outer are leaning the other way. So that in mind, this makes a really, really nice sheet. And you can see one of the ways to finish the ends is just here using the same ring to attach. But let's get started before we get ahead of ourselves. So the first ring, we have 10 rings, 4 on the first, 4 closed on the first, 2 closed on each after that. We're going to close this one. And that's going to be the middle of a set of 4. So to do that, I'm going to split 2 off to one side and 2 off to the other side. And then I remove my pliers, and you can even try practicing balancing it on your finger just to get an idea of what's comfortable and possible. And so now from here, I'm going to go ahead and attach the clasp, because otherwise it can make you wild, just because everything's going to be flopping around. So we're looking at this centermost ring. I want this ring to enter and follow that same path. Do you see how the bumps are the same, like the little curve of the wire? Whoop. Sorry, I like sound effects. And I'm just going to close it. Still holding on to that ring. I'm just pressing from behind, and I'm going to try to split it back into that 4 flower. Oops. Well, I threw it on the ground, so... And I also I forgot to put the clasp on. Okay, so that's okay. So I've dropped it on the ground, and it looks like we did nothing. That's okay. We're going to pick it up by this end. That single ring that we had just added, and we're going to split those bottom 2 open. And check this out. If we push this through to kind of get it turned around, it's basically witchcraft, you guys. I don't know what to tell you. Ah, dang it, it was blurry. Okay, we'll put it back. So if you drop yours and it ends up looking like this, that's okay. We're going to rotate what is currently the top to be down, and then we're going to split. Stop being blurry, thank you. That open. And then I'm going to pick it up with my finger and thumb, flip my pliers around, pick it up from there, push these guys. I don't know, y'all. I hope that's helpful. You'll keep fiddling with it and you'll figure it out. But I'm going to open that and I'm going to put the clasp on it, because now we know which ring is our end. So now we can hold on from the clasp end and we can shake it around and be like, okay, do you see how these 2 are kind of laying like that, kind of stacked? I'm just going to push that open, and you can see the more experience you get with weaving chainmail, the more you'll be able to recognize these patterns and kind of figure your way out. But we're going to pick up the next ring. Also, right now is the hardest part, you guys, because once we get it going a little bit, the pattern is evident. So hang in there. So we're just going to hook through those 2. And I'm going to close it. I'm going to hold back onto it, and then I'm going to flip this ring like that. So there you can see it's starting to look like something. So we're going to pick up the one ring, and we're going to hook through just in whichever way you need to hook through to get the ring to be sitting where it's in the similar pattern, because when you're holding it under tension, it should look like this. If whenever you hook through and you hold under tension and it looks like that, that's not correct for what we're trying to do. And so we just get those side rings laying in the direction they're supposed to be laying in, and then I'm going to insert from the other direction. And if you're getting frustrated, it's okay. I highly encourage you to set down the project, take a break, have a cup of something nice to drink, and then come back to it, just to give your brain like a minute, to chew on what we're learning. But be patient with yourself, be patient with the project. So, and I'm going to flip this over because you may like it better from one direction than the other. I know I do. This is my preferred direction because I can see what's happening. Here's the hump that I need to be following along with. So I just hook through kind of from above and then up from below. And then we're going to close. And that's it. That's this weave, essentially. So I just like to let it fall open. And there's a bunch of different ways to weave this, both into strips and into, making whole sheets out of it and stuff. So this is just the tip of the iceberg, y'all. Just the tip. So if you're intrigued, though, I highly recommend sticking with it. Like, chainmail is so much fun. It's so rewarding. And it's just cool. I just like it. It's pretty neat. And so just splitting that open, grabbing up another ring, hooking through. And then closing. And we just have 2 more. And then on to our last weave of the day, which is probably for the best because we're running out of sunlight. So I'm going to add this last ring to the box chain, or to the European foreign one, but I want to show you how this becomes this. So this is box chain. Something that the very first time I wove box chain, I did it this way, where I pushed the rings closed on themselves and then would insert one ring through 4 on this side. And that was not my favorite way. It was very challenging. But that's essentially, you just zip it up the side. And that's pretty cool, truly. But I'm going to show you how to do it what I think is a much easier way, at least as far as, being, not having to fight on, it's such a tight fit doing it this way, or at least it was for me. So we're going to take this, and here each unit is 2 open with 4 closed rings on one. And so I'm just going to pick that up, and we're going to close it, and then I'm going to put 2 rings through the 4 that we just passed through. Just kind of a lot for the camera to focus on right now, I guess. I'm doing the best I can, honey. So we're going to close that. Then we're going to bring those 2 rings together, flop 2 over and 2 up. Now I'm going to open up another ring, and this is going to be what I attach the clasp with. Personally, on this one, I prefer a slightly larger ring, like an 16 gauge 1/4 inch for being the clasp ring, especially if I'm using an S clasp like this. But that's not included in our kit, so I just wanted to demonstrate this. So remember how we were doing the Byzantine? We're going to hold on to the center here and pretend like those other rings for the Byzantine unit are there. We're just flipping those open like this, and then letting them come down to the sides. This first one's always the most tricky to me because there's not a whole lot to hold on to, but I just want to hook through 1 and 2 on the outermost. Do you see how it sits and does that little Byzantine style V-ing? We're going to hook the clasp on. And this is one of the handmade clasps that you can expect to find in your December 2025 craft along kit. I made it. I hope you like it. I hope you enjoy it in your kit. It's made from hammered 16 gauge titanium toned parawire. Okay, so that's it. Boom, we're done. No, I'm going to hold on to the clasp, and that allows me to kind of press up from the end here. I attached to the wrong end. The reason I attached to the wrong end is because how I have these 2 double rings here. That's not allowing me to attach cleanly. That's okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up a ring, and I'm just going to hook through 2 on the end. So this is a much easier way of attaching the clasp. Don't be afraid to experiment and find different ways of doing things, y'all. Okay, so now we're doing that Byzantine flop, flop, off to the sides, push, push, up the sides. Ooh. The clasp makes it a little fumbly, but that's okay. We'll find our way. And then bonk, bonk. And we're going to take the open ring with 2 closed on it, and we're going to hook through flomp right there. And then we're going to close it. But I feel like the way that the rings fall away off to the sides, it really makes me feel like I've got a lot of space to finagle my pliers around and to grip comfortably. And then I'm just hooking that empty ring through the path that we just followed, making it a solid little 2-2. And right now, that probably looks a lot like Byzantine. But if we take these and we repeat this little V pattern, 1 over, one over, and then open, open, and then we pick up a close, an open with 2 closed on it, and hook through that middle section right there. And then I'm going to close it. And then passing it through, same path, giving it a nice close, and then splitting 1 ring on either side. Now here you can see they'll kind of nestle in between the layer, like there and there. And so you'll just find that things will start to sit a particular way in your hand, and that's okay. Find what's comfortable and consistent. Whoop. I'm just hooking through those 2, closing it, and then we're going to hook through those same 2. You'll want to make sure that you're not crossing through your center ring. You want these rings to be parallel to each other, like that. See how they're parallel as opposed to crossed? Because if they're parallel, that's going to allow us to split them neatly into the V pattern. And we hook through, and we just keep repeating that. And that is the box chain. So we can go deeper dive into each of these weaves, and we will in future tutorials. And we will also do quite potentially a part 2 in this ring size of experimenting with how does this ring, because all of these ring sizes here on the back side of this Chainmaille Joe pattern, you can see this ring has an aspect ratio of 4. So ideal aspect ratio for the European foreign one, 4. Ideal aspect ratio for the spiral foreign one, 4. Ideal aspect ratio for the Byzantine, 3.5, but we pulled it off, I think, quite nicely with a 4. But we could try, we may address sweet pea in a future tutorial, we may address round mail in a future tutorial, and I may try tackling, ooh, elf weave. That'd be fun. I've never tried that one before. But in the ones that have 2, that means it takes 2 different ring sizes. But yeah, so stay tuned for future tutorials, you guys, because I'm having all sorts of fun experimenting and just seeing what works and what we can accomplish with. I'd like to explore the depths of what we can accomplish with the things we already have in our craft room. So if all we can do is buy 1 bag of chainmail rings, what can you do with that 1 bag of chainmail rings? So we're going to be doing this style of video on other ring sizes in the future. If you have a ring size that you would like for me to experiment with, let me know down in the comments, because I'd like to hit them all, but if there's some that y'all are particularly interested in more than others, I'd love to know. And I'm also really excited about potentially making some of my own polymer clay, like decorative chainmail rings, and kind of seeing how those incorporate, just to see. I don't know how it'll, or maybe like little resin beads, or, oh, well, I make lampwork glass beads too. That might be really fun. Yeah, so we're going to have to do all sorts of exploring. There we go. And then here we are on our second to last ring. And I think this box chain is just sleek and gorgeous. I think it can be really helpful to know other weaves first, maybe, but the best place to start is wherever you're most curious. It's okay to jump in over your head, It's okay to take it easy on the shallow end. To me, the shallow end is spiral chain. I'm still perfectly happy. Spiral chain is a happy place for me. I could weave it all day if my hand will hold up. And we're hooking through our last. And then I'd like to show you how I finish the end of this. So we're going to have 2 additional open in the same ring size to finish the end of the weave. And then from there you could attach either a mechanized extender chain, which this is an example of that. I didn't weave this. It was chain on a spool. Now, I did get this from the ring lord. So, a lot of the jewelry and chainmail suppliers will have more than just, chainmail rings. They'll have clasps and, chains and stuff as well. And maybe even some beads. As opposed to here on this one, I did more of my own. And you can see sometimes it just needs shifted a little. But that's how I finished the end with my homemade extender chain. Just using the same rings as what we have. And so to do that, I just position everything as though I'm about to add another segment, but there's no closed rings attached. So I just add one ring and then close it. And then I'm going to add another ring and close it. And then it'll be through these two that I detach some extender chain. And so this could either be this long, or you could make it however long as you like for a bracelet or an anklet or a necklace, or, hanging off of a belt. I bet that would look really cool. But yeah, really love the box chain. And here's an example of box chain woven with the open rings were all the silver tone and all the closed rings were the metal tone. So this would look very similar if it were made with stretchy rubber rings where the blue ones are, but it would stretch, which is really neat. But I just love it. Now sometimes, and you can see here, there'll be a plane shift. And this actually makes it a really fun fidget toy, or fidget jewelry. Is you can, down here on the end, do you see how it shifts plane a little bit? Here the silver rings are poking out and here the blue rings are poking out. That's just a matter of it just shifts around. So this bracelet has a lot of movement compared to some of the other ones, at least in this weave. So that is our video. I really hope that it was helpful to you guys. If you have any questions, comments, or ideas, leave them down below. I look forward to seeing y'all next time. And if you're interested in crafting along with us, there are links down in the video description to our craft along kits, our website, our different social media and stuff. But really, I just have to say, I just appreciate you being here, and I hope that you're having fun crafting, and I'll see you in our next tutorial. So until then, you guys, happy crafting. Mwah. Bye. So here I have the ring density. This is 22 rings of the spiral chain versus 22 rings of the half Persian 3-in-1, 26 rings in the Byzantine, 33 rings in the European 4-in-1, and 44 rings in the box chain. So I didn't feel like doing them all up to 44 because my hands hurt and I'm tired. But this gives you an idea maybe of the ring density, so it's especially in contrast 22 here versus 22 here. This one's just a little longer. So if you're looking for a project, like you're wanting to make a necklace and you just want it to be, as quick as possible, spiral might be a way to get there. But half Persian 3-in-1, as far as ring density, gets you pretty far as well. Now the Byzantine chain was 26. That's even shorter. For 4 rings more, look at it next to the spiral chain. Like it's quite shorter. Whereas 33 rings, 44 isn't even the same length as 33. So the density here is wild because it's not just adding rings to the weave, it's also condensing it down. So it's really cool. So I'm interested in this. If y'all have any questions or recommendations of how to do this ring density comparison next time, really, I think the best way would have been for me to just do them all up to 44, but I got very lazy. So bye-bye for real now. Mwah. Happy crafting.